waiting here for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Oh, here, just read this paragraph between, just the top paragraph there. See it?
Clear it right up.
Is there an easy index to reference our ordinances or policies rather than ordinances that we have?
Not that I'm aware of, I mean, it's all on the website, but I wouldn't say that.
The whole building shakes as Henry drives up in his dump truck. You read that?
They're
You're
all
set.
on the website.
Okay.
There's no, oh yeah, there was, what did I do with that? I have to figure out where I put it. There was a book that I feel like Ned Beecher put together maybe, that was all the ordinances.
Oh, he did do that.
Yeah, and it was, but it only went up to whatever year it was, like 18 years ago or something.
But it was all the modifications to every ordinance,
And
every
I'm
time
sorry,
it was
I
modified.
said ordinance, I meant policies.
Oh, we
was-
we
I
have
was-
I have a
we have
book on
policies.
policies.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if there's an index
Oh,
so that you can find stuff instead of having to like
No.
know.
flip through the alphabetical, yeah.
Okay.
What were you trying, was there something in particular?
Well, I was told about a policy today surrounding the UFB,
The unassigned fund balance?
yeah, UFB, that we're supposed to keep between
It's at 5 and 17%.
8 and 15% is what our policy says
Oh,
supposedly.
fine, okay, the state is
So-
5 to 17, which is always the number we've used, but
Right. So
8 and 15?
yeah,
Yeah, we have way too much money in it.
right. So that was my question: is are we obligated to follow that policy and
No.
get it down
Oh.
to the?
I don't think, it's not an ordinance, it's a policy.
Yeah.
However, why keep all that money in savings? Now, before you arrived, we spent a significant amount bringing, on a tax, you know,
Bring the tax rate.
bringing the tax rate down, and there was a lot of pushback saying, you're spending our innocent
I don't think we should talk about this right now.
Oh, because we're not in a meeting?
Well, because it's gonna lead right into the budget conversation.
Okay, we can talk about it in the budget section.
Hi, Emery.
Hello.
Hi. You've been in the sun.
Yeah. And cold. Yeah, the wind. I was in North Sandwich.
Oh,
Yeah.
far, far away.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We did construe
End
this.
of
We're starting the
uh,
conversation.
Real white page or
Because we
white page.
have
Oh, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. We have Christine on the
We're being recorded.
thing.
Yeah,
doing-
but I didn't
open
think
and
it was.
open
I'm asking a
Yeah.
question about a
I
policy.
think more how
5:32.
she was responding.
Okay.
We are now opening the select board meeting at 5:32 p.m. And I make a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91-A:3 2C.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
There, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Sentence yes.
Roberts, yes. 4 yes, 0 no. We are now non-public at 4:33 p.m. 5:33 p.m. I make a motion to come out of non-public at 6:15 p.m.
Second.
Roll call vote.
There, yes. Schaefer, yes.
Prentice yes.
Roberts, yes. 4 yes, 0 no. We are now out of non-public. Minutes are not sealed. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda?
No.
Um,
get you to sign it and pass it on.
Start with the public hearing.
Yep, okay. We'll move on to the public hearing. I make a motion under RSA 3195-B3A, accepting unanticipated funds earned interest on ARPA funds.
Second.
To go into a non-public, to go into a
Hearing.
public hearing, sorry.
Second.
Roll call vote.
There, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. We are now in a we're now in a public hearing at 6:17. And is there any public input for the public hearing?
I don't know how this works, this is my first time here, but is this all it's spoken about in the?
There's an opportunity for public input too. Like I'll say, is there any public input if you have something you'd like to ask us or?
Okay.
You know.
That's at the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll go, we don't go.
Is there any input on the acceptance of the unanticipated funds earned from ARPA? It's the interest on the money that we've set up. Yes.
What is the amount?
$12,006.93.
$6.93.
$6?
$12,006.93.
I believe.
If there's nothing from the public, I make a motion to.
I've got something I wanna bring up.
Yep.
Is it about is it about this issue?
The ARPA funds?
Is it
Oh,
a-
no.
No.
Yeah,
no,
you'll
wait,
be at the end
Okay.
of the meeting, yep.
Yep, alright.
Do I make the motion in the public hearing or do I get out of the public hearing and
Close
then
it.
make the
Oh,
motion?
we
Close
Close
have
the
to-
hearing,
have
then
to
we
vote
vote.
to accept them, right?
Yeah, but you gotta
Yeah.
close the
Oh,
hearing.
Okay, I
The
make a
public
motion
part.
to close the public hearing.
Second.
Roll call vote.
There, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. 4 yes, 0 no. I'll get better at those at some point.
We don't have them very often.
I make a motion to accept the unanticipated funds earned, interest on ARPA funds for the amount of $12,006.93.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
There, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Robert, yes. 4 yes, 0 no. Moving on to new business, the racetrack noise discussion with Amy Barrier.
So my name's Amy Barrier, I live on Bryant Road in the Whittier section of Tamworth, which is, as most of you know, down very close to the racetrack. I spend a lot of time working outside at my house. I've been recently doing renovations, so I've been outside pretty much every day during the nice weather. So I've had a front row seat to the noise, and there are many days when the noise is not noticeable, and then there are some days when I feel like my stress level has elevated to an extent that my life sucks. Like it's so loud, I feel like I'm putting my ear to a hive of hornets. So, my question, so I reported this, there was a particular couple of days, Thursday the 5th of September and on Friday the 6th, when it was so loud that I called in and I spoke to Hillary and I left a message about my concern. And on Monday, the 9th, Keats sent an email with a copy of our noise ordinance, town's noise ordinance, so I appreciated that. And she put me on the agenda for today. Again, on a particular time frame when there was excessive noise to the point where it was noticeable all day long was September 21st and 22nd. So I actually texted 3 of you, which may or may not have been appropriate, but I was just kind of at my wit's end. And on Tuesday, the 24th, I got a text from Richard Doucette who said, oh, we think that they, according to the schedule, they rented out the track to the Fishtail Motorcycle Club. And those people have been problematic in the past. So those are just 2 examples of extreme noise disrupting the lives of people in our part of town. And I don't believe that everybody in Chicarwa and Wanalancet can hear it to the extent that we do. So it's a pretty small population that gets really adversely affected. Hope lives on Old 25, she's a farmer, she works outside all the time. There's no way to avoid this noise. So my questions for the board, after reading the ordinance, which does say that this ordinance is to ensure that there are provisions made to control noise and to ensure that the operation of such a facility will not be injurious, noxious, or offensive to the community. Well, I can tell you it's all of those. So this was enacted in March of 2005. My questions are, is there a line of direct communication between the board and CMI about the noise? Do you as a board receive regular noise monitoring reports of any kind? Because in here it says that the facility, CMI, is responsible for monitoring their own noise. And it goes into details about the noise level and where it should be monitored, and that if you as a board request their monitoring, they need to produce that at any time. So my question is, have you ever done that? Then also in the ordinance, you are permitted to do your own monitoring. Do you do any of that? And then there's a section about fines. So each violation of this ordinance shall be punishable by a civil penalty of $1,000. Each day or fraction thereof of any violation of a provision of this ordinance shall constitute a separate offense. Has the town collected any fines? $1,000 per infraction. When the motorcycle club was going, boom, 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 like thousands of dollars for the town. I am sure that they were violating this ordinance. What recourse do we, representing townspeople, have? Anything? I don't have a monitor. I'm not qualified. We were talking, and the tricky part is that we hear the track, we hear Route 25, I hear my neighbor who has a chainsaw maintenance business over there. So we hear a lot of noise, and so if I was to stand somewhere with a monitor, I'm sure it wouldn't hold up in court that, oh yeah, it's 69, it's 72, it's whatever reading. They're gonna say, oh, that must have been the truck going by. That must have been your neighbor. So I just would, I don't know. I don't think it's gonna get any better over time. They're building some buildings. They're gonna keep doing what they're doing. You know, it didn't work out that they didn't build that. They did build it, and we have to live with it. But we should be living with it under the auspices of this ordinance. And the question is there any framework by which this is being enforced?
I think the answer to your first few questions is no, 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 since I've been on the board.
That's what I was gonna say. I don't know that we haven't been in contact at all with CMI, but to my knowledge, I've never been directly in contact with CMI since I've been on the board. And as far as, sorry, I didn't have a list of questions, but yeah, I would say that it was to the first three, no.
Okay.
No. And I'm not sure what.
Right, so it was, do we have comms? No. Have we had noise reports? No, I don't believe so.
Do we have a,
Have we asked for
Do you have
them?
equipment?
We haven't asked for any noise reports that I'm aware of.
no,
Okay.
Highly doubt we have monitoring equipment. I was looking through the racetrack ordinance, and it talks about, you know, using the current equipment, whatever that happens to be.
Right, and, well, so there's, just to be clear, we did have a racetrack ordinance in this town, and then CMI went down, I believe, to Concord and got themselves redefined as a private driving facility, so they were no longer covered by the racetrack ordinance, so we have a noise ordinance. So I think we still have the racetrack ordinance on the books, but it's worthless.
Yeah.
Doesn't apply.
Unenforceable.
So
Okay.
the noise ordinance is the only protection that the citizens have. And I think there are a lot of times, I mean, I'm speaking for myself, Hope can speak for herself, there are a lot of people who are affected by this who aren't here. Wyatt couldn't be here tonight. It drives him absolutely bonkers. That as well, and probably other neighbors, but we're sort of suffering in silence. And I just finally had it, this summer, I just had it. And so I guess my request to the board would be, we may be a small population down there in Whittier. I don't know how far the noise goes and to affect people to the point where it's noxious, injurious, and offensive. But even if it's only affecting our neighborhood, that seems like enough to care. To say, okay, we gotta get, hope you can say what you've done a couple times, is call them.
When I first moved in there and they were just starting up, I got hearing protectors. But what happened was I could still hear the track, but I couldn't hear the crickets or the birds next to me. I can hear them in my house. You go in the house and it's still just as loud because it's an old uninsulated house. I can't get away from it.
But then you said you called the track and left them a message saying, just so
today.
you know,
I just said it.
it's really loud, you guys
It's
are being
loud
too loud.
and you are affecting somebody.
But
And
that's-
that's all I said. I didn't
Yeah.
go anything past that. I said, you don't have to call me back. I just want you to know.
What would you like to see from the town? I mean, is there,
What I would like to see is a process that makes sense. I understand they're running a business, but I also understand that we all have to abide by rules. And so if there was a way, when the Fishtail Motorcycle Club, for instance, is renting the track for 2 days, that we know that that's happening and they know that they need to monitor. And if they go over the parameters here, maximum value of 69 dBA, they're gonna be hit with fines by the town. That there's some kind of a framework where they understand that somebody's paying attention. Because,
And there's a consequence.
right, because otherwise, they're just gonna do what they are gonna do to make their constituents happy, and their constituents are not your constituents. Your constituents are those of us sitting here. Those people are coming in from wherever they come to do their fun things, and then they leave. And I don't know as they even are aware that what they're doing is having a big effect on our lives. But it is.
Yeah, looks like we have the ordinances in place that we can go in there and audit. Is that not the case
Did you read the email from Crystal?
on this?
Yeah.
No.
I think that the first step, it would make most sense to me, is that one of us reach out to the track operator and have a conversation and explain what you've shared. And you're certainly not the first people who have, at least anecdotally, I don't remember people coming to us officially before, but we've certainly heard lots of people in town speak about racetrack noise. And have a conversation to see what would be, what effective recourse, because we're gonna get a lot further if we can come up with a system that we mutually agree on. I mean, we can go in hard, here's the ordinance, whatever else, and they're, we saw this as the town, some townspeople were protesting against the building of the track. People lawyer up, and that just escalates, and that doesn't give us a solution.
No, and then that's not what we're asking for. I think we're asking for something reasonable, because there are so many days when there's something going on over there, and it's annoying. I wish it wasn't there, but we could live with it.
Sure.
And then there are the spikes, and it's really the spikes that need to be monitored and have them put on notice that that's not acceptable, that they really need to keep their business model at a level which is not gonna damage people's quality of life, which it seriously is doing. It physically affects you when you have to listen to this, and it's like,
For all day.
it's like no noise that we experience from anything else. Years ago, Dan Poirier was asking me about it. I said, it's kind of like, it's cyclical. it's like this thing and it just keeps hitting you. It's not like trucks going by or even motorcycle week, like. So I guess a reasonable approach sounds like a good first start, because I don't want them to get their hackles up, but I would like them to be on notice that we have some kind of
Yeah,
backbone here.
yeah,
I mean, maybe even just request the results of their monitoring.
I doubt they
but that's
monitor.
assuming they're
They're
monitoring.
supposed to though. This-
Yeah,
This thing
but I-
says that they should.
Again, I'm gonna say, like, I don't wanna go too hard on the ordinance right now, because I think that just gets, there's the potential there for being a legal battle that we could or might not win. So if we can find a way, it's an ordinance that may be fallible. So I think that the better recourse would be for us, one of us, to reach out and have a meeting and just have the conversation and ask about what ways we can ensure that those spikes level out. That we're not pushing for any kind of total cessation,
No,
but we're asking for the really tough times to not be so impactful on the residents, and see what we can come up with.
Yeah.
It's just to start with a conversation.
Well, and it would be very interesting to know what does 69 dBA at their property line actually sound like? Like, I have no reference to what they're allowed to be doing.
Yeah.
69 decibels is not that loud.
It's not that loud, and when we did back when this happened, and the Tamworth Foundation paid for it came back that it was not loud at all,
Right. And there's
when the testing was
like-
happening.
apparently, like, this level is a lawnmower, this level is a
Yeah.
chainsaw, this level is a jet engine.
You
But-
can Google 69 dBA and hear it.
Right, but if I can hear loud sounds at my house, I can't imagine what it is at the property line, and Hope lives a lot closer than I do. I just,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not arguing that I'm not saying that there's not an issue. And I'm not saying that, it sounds like clearly the rules of the ordinance are not being enforced. I'm just saying too, that I don't know what recourse we actually have. And before we test the teeth of our ordinance, I would like to try a more manageable, negotiable approach to see if there's some common ground we can find that helps everybody out.
okay, so how would we, as citizens, be able to find out when the conversation is had and what the results of the conversation are? Because that would be super helpful to
Sure.
know that something's actually
Yeah,
happening.
I think we would report it at a board meeting.
yeah, and we could, but I mean,
Also,
we could reach out and let
we
you,
could respond to
let
you
you
since-
know.
since you brought
Amy.
the-
Yeah,
Since you brought it
And
to the
hope.
board, we could
Okay.
reply to you.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I'd really like that, to just know what they said, and I would want to give them the benefit of the doubt that they are running a business that can be profitable even when it's not being obnoxious. Like, they should be able to. But I do understand that the ordinance is pretty light.
yeah.
Like, that's what we ended up with after that whole discussion about whether they should even come to town. We ended up with a very, very light ordinance,
Right.
but it's something. Anyway.
So the question is, who can reach out to them?
Who's the most diplomatic person on your board?
I'm happy to talk to them.
You're not going to?
I'm happy to talk to them.
Okay, that's what I thought you were gonna say. I'll go with you.
It might be better to have two sets of ears.
Yeah,
I really think so.
no,
Well, he didn't hear me sitting right next to me, so I don't know if he
what?
Okay.
I don't wanna drag this out, but is this just for businesses?
What?
The
This is
ordinance?
the ordinance, is that just for businesses?
It's just for driving.
It's for driving.
It's,
For driving
it
course.
says in accordance with the provisions of it, then there's a New Hampshire RSA, this noise ordinance is adopted by the town of Tamworth to regulate private driving instruction and exhibition facilities within the town. So when they changed their legal standing, or whatever they did, from a racetrack, which we had an ordinance, to this private driving facility, the town then came up with an ordinance to address that type of operation. So it was kind of like, we had that, and then we had to have this other thing. So it doesn't apply to my neighbor fixing chainsaws.
Right,
So that ordinance applies just to the track?
Yeah.
yes,
Oh, okay.
And it's not a racetrack, it's a private driving facility.
right. Okay, so you
Okay.
guys will make that,
They're an appointment.
Yeah, gotta get some contact information.
Yep.
it's probably right on our site.
Alright,
Okay.
thank you for coming in tonight. and-
Thank you for
Sorry.
listening.
Yeah.
Sorry you went through
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See what we come
alright,
up with.
I gotta go press cider.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Moving on to the budget discussion, starting off with,
Well,
never mind. We're not gonna
the
start
first
with
part of the budget discussion is just me giving a little bit of an overview. So, Steve, now I'm gonna have to share my screen. Where's my?
I read it. Yeah, I didn't see it in somehow, but
Yeah, I read it.
read it during the meeting.
I lost my screen that I thought was open. Come.
Sneak my-
I shrank it, so is it somewhere down there?
No, I bet if you go back to Outlook, because he launched it through there.
Well, that's how I felt when I got
Oh.
old. My face turns
You have-
beet red instantly.
It's not still active, so you just have to rejoin the
Okay,
Is
so
there
I'm
just
gonna-
is there any noise ordinance?
meeting.
That
No.
covers everything?
No.
Like from,
No.
I was gonna just.
You can do
It
that?
is not.
you gotta be quiet after 10 o'clock?
No, not in town, it's not.
No.
Okay.
Most towns have like hours that you can do stuff. We don't. Pretty much the Wild West.
Did I not click on it?
Don't
Live
give
free or
people
die.
an idea.
I'm embrace that.
I know.
Of course.
Some,
Nope, you just said it.
Oh. And do I have to do the share thing again?
No, you already changed the settings, so you should
Okay.
be able to just share at the bottom. There you go.
Success.
We're off.
Ed,
Okay.
Ed, can you just, your camera, I think the
Oh, I
camera's
didn't
already,
know.
can you just step your, the camera's okay with me, just your head is not. No offense.
So, what this is a spreadsheet that is a tool for me to understand sort of the puts and takes. It's got a lot of years of data, and I'm not gonna go through all of that, obviously. But I do wanna walk through 2024 quickly, and then we'll go into 2025 since we're here for a budget discussion. In 2024, the town appropriated $5.27 million, which was a almost 3% decrease from the previous year. You voted to use $279,000 from the unassigned fund balance, some ARPA funds to buy a fire truck, as we all know well, and the revenue was estimated to be at $2,040,000. Where this all takes you is, where is my? And then there are overlays that are applied, the cost of the veterans credits, and the abatement that is put on by DRA, and they're to make abatements. And so you get to an initial tax effort here. In 2024, right now, it's at 2.9 million, which would be a 3% increase year over year. This is gonna be important at tax setting time, which is in about a month, when you're gonna decide how much of the unassigned fund balance to use. Earlier this evening, we had a quick conversation about where the unassigned fund balance is. At the beginning of 2024, it's about 2.5 million, which is a really high number. It's at about 20% of the total budget. And so that is too high to be keeping that much money hanging around. It should really be, apparently our town policy is 8 to 15%. The state says 5 to 17, but if policy is 8 to 15, that's fine. What it means is that you have some room to play with that chunk of money.
Are you gonna share that draft, that
Sure.
spreadsheet with us?
Yeah.
Do we have
We do have that?
it?
Oh, I didn't see that.
Histories.
Tabs.
Okay, so,
Great, thanks.
so whenever there's these discussions about the unassigned fund balance and what's available, you need to think about sort of the push-pull. So some of it can go to reducing the tax effort, and some can go to designating it to purchase certain things in the budget. So I gave a very quick look at 2024, and now let's start where we are with 2025. Everybody has sent in their wish list, so obviously it's a pretty high number. So let's walk through it. So currently, if nothing changed, we'd be at 3.48 million. I'm sorry, 5.3848 million.
Sorry, Keats, where are you at right
I'm
Column
on
B.
2025 B5.
now? Yep.
That is a nice small change year over year. However, revenues are lower. So, and I'm gonna zero this number out for a moment. I'm used to
Keith,
using
would you
my,
mind just increasing the zoom on that so other people can see it?
yeah, how do I do
Bottom
that?
right corner of the Excel sheet.
Bottom right corner of the Excel sheet.
Right
There you go.
there.
You're
Yep,
you're
right
right
there.
there.
A
Right where it
little
says
slide,
100%.
no, go over.
I'm
Little
like freezing. I can't.
I'll see.
Right there.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Okay. Does that make it? Yeah, that's a little
There
better.
we go.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm gonna just take that number out for a moment because it's doesn't make the point quite yet. Okay. So the big change this year is that we have a significantly less in non-tax revenues. The biggest impact to having less in revenues is that we didn't apply for a grant to the fire department for the first time in several years. So those expenses also go away. They've been replaced with lots of other things, but that's why the revenues are down. We continue to have the veterans credit, and we have, of course, the abatement number that we have to have.
What's the big jump in the abatements?
Well, honestly, so if you look down here, at like, what year is that, 2018? That's kind of the number it should have been, always, and what happens is, in the year that you have a reval, you're putting that number in because that's what's used to give abatements. The reval years, there's a lot of abatements. A lot of people are gonna come to
Okay.
us and say, this is not what I should be paying. We were carrying too high a number there. It was stayed at 100,000 as opposed to going down to 40. We don't need it to be that high. And the reason that's really important is in 2026, you can take the number down again. So you will have a little more flexibility, like when the CIP comes in, you won't be at 100 for that number. So just know that at budgeting time, and I'll make sure whoever, comes in is aware of
But
that.
that's just a function of the revaluation.
Yep.
And that's set by DRA?
No, we can set it. They often will make a recommendation. We were carrying it really high and probably higher than we needed to, which is one of the reasons we have so much in our unassigned fund balance. And again, we should be having a lower unassigned fund balance. Okay, so where are we? We are looking at, so the initial tax effort is really high. And it's really high, not only for the municipal budget, but as we know, the school budget is also having a high thing. So this is obviously a problem. And there's a bunch of ways you can address the problem. One, you can cut the budget. That's probably one of the biggest tools. Two, you can use the unassigned fund balance, and we're in the lucky space that we have some to use. And two is you can use the unassigned fund balance to purchase certain things like a fire truck or whatever it is you want to spend it on. And three is you can use it to reduce taxes towards the end of the year. So in 2025, if you're still higher than you think you want to be, you have unassigned fund balance as a tool. Okay, so I'm going to go back here. You'll notice I deleted out $372,000 in this spot. That was a number that, if you were to use it in the following ways, this is how much you would spend. That immediately brings down your commitment for 2025. Again, I'm laying this out so that you understand sort of the choices that you have to make. And really, the bottom line is, you need to really take some big chunks out of the budget to start with. And then you also need to decide what would be a reasonable use of the unassigned fund balance. And between those two things, you might find $700,000 or $800,000 that can come off of this burden. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
Having laid the groundwork, and, you know, we can continue to use this as a tool each meeting if that, you know, as we cut things and sort of look at the numbers, we can use this. But that's kind of all I have to say for now, I think. And now, oh, I'm sorry, I do have one more thing to say. Just the big hits in the budget for 2025, we have an expensive bridge to fix. There's no getting around it, it's been red flagged by the state, it needs to be repaired, it's,
Depot Road.
thank you. Compared to last year, it was a $200,000 repair to the Mountain Road Bridge, which is just about to start next week. So that's a big difference. Also, the CIP, which is in the budget right now, calls for $250,000 to the capital reserve. We have no red flag bridges at the moment. Yay, that could change any time, but right now we don't. So one could make the argument that you put that $200,000 or $250,000 off, spread it over more years, make it $200,000 in 2026. That's an option. You know, we have to hear from the CIP, but so right there you've got a $400,000 hit on bridges, which is incremental. I mean, that's more than we spent in the previous year. In the CIP we have a cemetery vault, that's $60,000 more. Dana is going to talk about a possible idea as a way of funding a police officer role. That is another commitment of $100,000. And then in the transfer station, there's two pieces of equipment in here, the compactor and is it the loader? Yeah, it's the backhoe. And those may or may not end up getting covered by the transfer station improvement project. So that 120 could get pulled out if the project can afford to do that. So that's a net. So these are all pretty big chunks of money that are in the numbers that I just showed you already, and that are numbers that can be discussed and whittled down or changed or, you know, worked with.
Was there an estimate for that little bridge on Depot Road?
Yeah, it's $350,000.
For that little bridge?
Yeah, and that's.
Didn't the one on Whittier Road only cost like $250,000?
Yeah, and it's the prefabrication versus having to make a real bridge.
Yeah, the one on Bunker Hill a few years ago that we did, that wasn't a very big bridge. I want to say that was like
I think it was
$500,000 or
600,000.
600,000.
Yeah. And so Richard very creatively figured out a way to do prefab bridges, and that solved a lot. Otherwise, we'd be spending $600,000 on every bridge. They're expensive. Okay, and then the only other thing, and then I'll stop speaking, is all of the budgets, you know, the transfer station, my budget, all the budgets are, you know, we're gonna have to find money somewhere, so we're gonna have to look at all of them. And now I'll be quiet.
So, moving on to the police chief.
Please keep talking.
You picked a good night. Oh, you didn't pick it.
I personally gets to go first.
Should I close this spreadsheet, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So stuff.
What page are we on?
I think it starts on 7.
Line 445. Budgets.
Okay.
So, the challenges of budgeting that we seem to have year to year basically fall under staffing. Any changes to this budget basically represents just an increase of a cost of living increase or increase to pay and staffing. where to start necessarily, but the issue we have is we have 3 full-time positions, currently staffing 1 full-time position, which is myself, and staffing the sergeant's position as a part-time position, which is a little bit more than half the hours. The problem I run into every year is well, how do you budget for the unexpected? You know, I mean, the expected is to fill those positions. The unexpected is finding the help. Everybody around us, everybody in the region, county's next to us, the state, everybody's at a deficit. For the most part, state police are down like 90 statewide. And they're down at least 8 in the barracks locally. The sheriff's department is down 3, maybe 4 full-time positions. So on and so forth. Seems to be that we're all in a bit of an epidemic. My problem is I want to act in good faith of the budget and the taxes and what we're doing. You know, while I wholeheartedly feel we need to have those 3 full-time positions, the reality of me getting them filled is somewhat unrealistic within a calendar year. Although, the reality is it could change overnight. You could easily have 2 people walk through the door or whatever. You could hire one month and 4 months later you could have somebody just pop up that wants a job, that transfers from another agency, whatever the issues are. What's represented in my budget is 2 full-time positions funded and the part-time, the sergeant under the part-time line, as well as just a minimal amount for the partner enforcement and other part-time help. That doesn't mean I don't want 3 full-time positions. I'm just trying to be realistic to budgeting and taxes and concerns. What I've been talking with Keats about was, you know, years past I budgeted, you know, based on the staffing levels that I believe we need at a minimum to continue to operate and move forward. However, based on lack of, you know, hiring, you know, we've turned back a good surplus every year for, I don't know, last 5 years, last 4 years at least. So, I don't want to keep raising and appropriate that money and then turn it back into the general fund. What I was trying to look at, and Keith's got some legal advice on whether we can or can't do it or whatever, and the answer was we could. Basically set up a trust account by way of a warrant article that says we you know, let's set up this account, fund it for a set amount, and now here's where I think the money should come from personally. Like, I don't really want to raise that. I don't want to raise that in one shot, 1 year. So there's a couple ways to look at it. Either we split it out over a couple years, or we do it in 1 year, or the board approves to use money from the unassigned fund balance to fund that, which in reality is money I returned back.
Right.
You know, which personally I think is the better way to do it, than to have to raise and appropriate that money to fund that account. What that does then, it says if within a year or whatever time frame, whatever, somebody pops in our door, or we get a good candidate that we want to put through the academy or whatever, but yet let's just say we didn't budget it, you know, we didn't budget that 3rd position. Well, what it would do is allow us to have that funds available to fund that position. Like, I would hate to turn away a good officer that showed up and wanted to work for us and not have the funds available. But having that account would allow us just to have sort of a reserve to say, if that person came in the, whenever, we would have the funds available to fund that position.
It's like some of the other accounts we have. You fund it once, and then if you don't use it, it's there the next year without asking again,
Right.
right?
Correct.
So are you talking about adding another,
This is just to cover the 3 full-time.
so like this year you would have your normal budget, and then if you didn't fill one of those positions, that money would then go into,
No.
No, I think what I understand is he's putting forth his regular budget, which has 2.5 officers in it, basically, 2 and
Basically, yeah.
3/4 officers.
Yeah.
And then what he's proposing is to create an expendable trust that would specifically be used in the first year, if somebody miraculously, that 4th officer was hired.
It's, yeah, I wouldn't use 4th because
Oh, it's 3rd.
looking at the full-time
Third
slots,
full-time,
it would
okay,
be
sorry.
funding the 3rd full-time position.
Right, so if the
That's
3rd
what it would be.
full-time position was hired, you would then have money available, and you would pay their, first year out of that. And then they would be budgeted in the regular budget in future years. But
But
what
if
it
they
does
didn't-
is it gives
but-
you,
But if it isn't filled, if the position isn't filled, that money would stay in
it would stay there till it is
the
filled.
trust. So he wouldn't have to ask for it every year and then give it back. So,
we haven't been able to fill these positions for the last 3 years, and we're gonna add one.
Maybe 4.
No, it's
No, we're
not,
not,
it's
no, we're
not,
not adding, that's what I'm trying to, that's where the confusion is.
Well,
so what he's saying is instead of putting the 3 full-time in the budget, which is what he's been doing, and not being able to find anybody, and then returning that money back,
Okay.
he's
that's
putting
what
just 2 in the budget, and then the 3rd one's
That makes
gonna be
sense.
funded through this expendable trust. Cause right now he's asking for it every year, and
Yes,
putting it back in
okay.
general fund.
I thought, my understanding was, it had been 2 full-time, or you're including yourself in this.
Yeah,
So you have been 3 full-time anyway.
right.
Now you're gonna kind of not take away one, but have one that you don't have to budget for every year,
Right.
unless you fill that position.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, I thought
Yeah.
you were going,
No, it's the
Ah,
same,
but
same
also-
number, but just paid for differently if we get them.
perfect.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
I get where you're coming from.
I thought
It
we
doesn't
were
make
going-
sense what
I was like,
you're
why-
thinking.
Yeah, but why add when we,
Yeah.
We can't get what we want,
Yeah,
right.
get what I want.
Anyway,
Alright, so
Alright.
maybe you just answer this, but instead of funding 3 full-timers now, right? Why wouldn't we just fund you and the part-timer that we have and then put the 3rd full-timer in the expendable trust? From the
We're not
USG.
sure I'm following. We're
Like if
still
we-
funding,
If we fund the expendable trust with the unassigned fund balance, so we don't have to take it from taxation, then that would be the 3rd officer in that trust right away, and then the budget would be for you and the
3rd
part-time.
full-time.
Right,
We're still currently budgeting for myself and one other full-time.
okay.
That we're
So
trying to
there's-
hire.
So there's an open position in the regular budget,
Yeah,
and a part-time, which is Sergeant Pearlie. And
Yeah.
then what you're saying is the expendable trust is for that 3rd full-time.
right. So I guess that's what I'm confused about is.
Why not put the second full-time
Correct.
in that same trust
Yeah.
until you hire him?
I don't know, we didn't,
You good?
I mean, let's hope we get them tomorrow,
Yeah.
right? But,
no, I get where
But
you're
I
coming
think that
from,
it's
how do
still-
we, how do we,
how do you fund that amount for the expendable trust all at once? For 2 people, well,
Yeah,
you're still
right.
I
asking for
guess
the
we're still
money,
operating off of, whatever, this year's budget.
but you're still asking for the money anyway, whether
Yeah,
for the expendable trust and for a full-time person. But if we don't get that full-time person, that money's gonna go back.
Right.
Well, this is gonna stay, why not have both of them stay,
Right.
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
so 6, 1 half dozen the other.
Well,
Well, to me, the difference is you don't have to raise the
Every
other
year.
officer from taxation.
Next
And then you
year,
have 2
yeah.
officers in the
Well, if we
expendable
can get
trust.
them both from the unassigned trust,
If-
unassigned fund balance.
You could, that's your decision.
Yeah,
Well,
we're
but I
pretty
mean-
high on the budget, or on the balance right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, either way, if we're talking right now, in the way Chief Littlefield presented it, that we fund one expendable trust for one full-time person. And in the budget already, we're still asking for money for that second person. We're asking for the money anyway. If we put it in the expendable trust instead of leaving it in the budget, you can still access it whenever you need to, but if you, God forbid, don't find somebody again, at least we're not coming back next year, having to raise that money again and have it go back into our already quite,
Yeah, I mean,
Rich.
just, that's fine as long as the language in the warrant article is appropriate, you know, like it's, would say officers, plural.
Right.
To fund, you know, the position of officers.
We could specify it's 2 officers, right?
Right.
Two full-
And I wonder if you could then do, because you're not gonna hire them both on January 1st, the odds of that are
Yeah.
infinitesimal. So it wouldn't maybe need to be the full,
Because when I budget for a vacancy, I have to budget at the max.
Yeah.
right,
So whatever the max pay we would be offering, whatever the max family plan, I mean, insurance, which would be the family plan. So it's just like, it's a big question mark that we have to fund, to be fair. And, I mean, I think we can kick around that wording and maybe get some thoughts.
now look at the
I mean-
numbers.
I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
I just don't want
As
to
long as
lose,
it works.
I don't want to lose that
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
position.
So that's my question, then the follow-up though, is if we move those to the expendable trust, does that do anything to your running budget? You only will be showing a budget for yourself and a part-timer, for one full-timer, one part-timer, because the rest is sitting in expendable trust.
Yeah, I mean, we run a somewhat of a meager budget, you know, like.
Is that a risk to the department?
I think
Not
that,
if that money is designated.
no, if the money's designated, because you can tap it any time. from
I'm
the
just talking about then the
trust.
next year's budget, so we do this all, and then we get an officer in May, great, we get a second officer, awesome, but then it's not gonna be a problem putting those 2 salaries back onto the 26 budget, right?
Right.
Well,
That's my question.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
you mean, because it's gonna look, the optics are not gonna be great, because all of a sudden the budget's gonna go poof.
Up by 2 officers,
Yeah,
exactly.
well,
Yeah, but our overall budget would increase dramatically.
I'm catastrophizing. just-
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that that's our job then to articulate that in the budget hearing.
that was the
Explain.
plan, when you hired somebody, you
You know.
committed to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right, and, you know, based on current trends, if you don't get 2 full-time people, we'll have been able to point to the money that we didn't raise and appropriate or not.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's our responsibility, to just be able to articulate
Sure.
that to the public.
I'm thinking about future boards and,
Yeah, well,
Gotta
let's
heck with
like
that.
have good minutes.
It's their problem.
I think that's what Chief was thinking about too.
yeah.
Fair enough,
Yeah, that's true.
But I'm trying to be fair
yeah,
to my taxpayers, so I'm trying to be fair as well to appropriating money. I mean, I
Yeah.
just don't, it seems senseless to appropriate money that a very low percentage of kind of spend.
yeah.
Yep.
So, this budget draft that we have right now is representing pulling out one of those full-time into the expendable trust? Is that what this 166,941 represents?
That's the 2 full-time positions.
And so the third, where does the expendable trust show up at the end?
It's
We
in-
didn't put it,
No, it's in the budget, it's,
Back with the CIP stuff?
yeah, it's in like the.
Oh yeah, that last page,
You
got
see
it,
it?
yeah,
Okay.
okay. Okay, I think conceptually, it makes sense to me,
Yeah.
to not raise and put into a slush fund year after year. Let's not raise it if we don't have to.
Yeah, we'll have to look at whether it really comes from the unassigned fund balance or not, but we'll see what we want to do with that.
Yeah, I don't know how we're gonna fund it yet, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying that theoretically, this prevents us from having to
Right.
stay in this cycle of taking,
Yeah.
money from people that we don't
Use.
spend.
Yeah.
And this is a cleaner way to,
if you fund it by appropriation, you're gonna take the hit, you know, in that year 1 of funding it.
yeah,
What line are you seeing that on?
the CIP,
CIP.
it's on the last page.
Yeah.
It's, 784.
Thanks.
And that's where I put it in the budget, that doesn't mean that's where it has to sit. It could also be funded out of Dana's budget.
Yeah,
It's a placeholder.
Yeah, I just wanted
it's a
to find it, so
placeholder
Yeah.
for now.
highlight it.
We can work out the,
Oh, and by the way, health insurance cost increases aren't in this budget yet, just FYI.
Yep.
They're coming, they voted 2 days ago, we'll get the number probably tomorrow.
other than that, is there anything else that's markedly,
Yeah, there is,
Different?
so
Like
these
the price
increases
side?
do show a 3% CPI. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to put those in or not.
oh, you do have that in there?
Yes, but then I did increase my pay 4% over CPI.
Okay,
Reason being is the competitive, the supply and demand effect that's going on and the competitive nature of other agencies have caused everybody to keep raising their, rates, hourly rates for, even uncertified officers, to the point where the disparity has closed in. There's very little disparity between that of somebody, who's never done the job and myself. So just making that increase, like looking at the regional average, it still puts me just below average.
And Dana, just for clarity's sake, is it total 4% or 7%?
7%, 4% over CPI.
Okay.
and so all your salary lines already have the 3% in?
Except for yours.
So like the second full-time position doesn't really, not really, because it's just a
Right.
Oh,
flat.
right.
But I mean,
It's a
but-
theoretical.
but
So the only
Sergeant
other- the
Hurley
only-
and-
So, for the administrative assistance position, yes, and for the part-time, for sergeant, part-time pay, yes.
And for animal control and,
It's a separate budget, and
Okay.
that not really, but.
okay. As long as Keith, we've got that to remember when we do the others.
And the percentages are all off because it looks like everything's split up differently now. Like the part-time salary was,
Yes, because, so like last year and trying to like sort of keep that third position open, I funded the part-time position out of that.
Right, that's
Okay.
So
right.
that's why you're seeing the increase on the part-time
Okay.
line.
yeah, makes sense. And then why the full-time line goes down 22%.
Okay. Everything else looks pretty,
So I guess there's,
pretty straightforward.
you and I should
Chat,
Yeah,
look at,
numbers.
yeah, and then the board will.
yeah.
And the overtime's just a function of the fact that we don't have enough employees to do the work, so you and Sergeant Curley have to do more.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's an increase on on my end. I mean, if you look
Yeah.
at this year's expenditures, it's about 182 hours of overtime
Okay.
over the course of the year so far.
If you hire somebody, that goes down.
Yeah, in theory, that would, go down quite a bit.
So no custodial services?
No,
That's been
we
worked out.
just worked it into, the, salary of the administrative assistant. So we just took that out.
Remember
Moving
that,
forward.
that conversation last year about Rick not doing it because of security?
Can't get back, yeah.
You don't?
Yeah, that's why. They take care of it themselves. Yeah.
I mean, things like, uniform allowance I've just kind of kept, even, that would not outfit, that cost there would not outfit an officer, but,
Yeah.
I'm, like to think that we can, I mean, there's equipment, obviously, we can reuse, that's fine, but depending on their size or whatever, whether they can fit in with the uniforms that we have, great, if not, then we have to buy them, so.
Okay.
Anything else that really sticks out?
Nope.
Either from us or the chief?
Yeah, no, I mean, nothing that we haven't really talked about. I mean, there's really no increases, significant increases. You do see a significant decrease in the dues and subscriptions. And that's because last year you guys agreed to use that money surplus that we had in our budget to do the policies, to hire a
Right.
company
Oh, yeah.
redoing our policies, so. And that's a 2-year contract, so that was all paid out of that, so that's why that went down.
And that's working well?
Yeah, I meet virtually every 3 weeks, and it's great. It'll be great when it's all done.
What's the timeline, roughly?
What's that?
What's the timeline for it?
Well, there was a delay in, like, we paid them and then they forgot about us. So we didn't get started till spring.
I'm sorry, what are we talking about?
That policy reboot.
Oh.
We paid for it.
So we got 2 years from when that clock started
2
ticking.
years.
Yeah, so we're on track. I mean, we try to knock out a handful of policies here and there and discussions, so.
Great.
Awesome.
And all of those policies will be vetted to allow us to move eventually towards accreditation.
Yep. All right, thank you.
Yep, thank you for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, chief.
We are going to move on to the transfer station budget with Brian Gillespie.
Yeah, Keith had already touched on the tractor and the contract. The only real change, a significant change, is with the overtime, and we just based that on the fact that by the time I took the job, the overtime from last year was already gone. Granted, the winter was crazy, and Rick was doing multiple jobs and stuff like that, so everything else just, more or less 3%. And I forget exactly what the overtime, I haven't had a chance to really sit with Keats, because I've been trying to get the new guys going and stuff. But that's, the only change that you're gonna see is in the overtime,
And do you mind if I add just a few?
whatever you like.
The other change, which we didn't get a chance to talk about, but we've been budgeting at about 180. Are you good?
Sorry, I was answering.
Oh, yeah, so we've been budgeting at about 180 for hauling services,
Okay.
but only spending typically much less than that. For instance, in 2023, we spent 153. 2022, again 153. I don't know how much they've gone up, but so I just kind of took out 10, so put it at 170. It would probably be worthwhile, Brian, for you to look at what the prices are now. Maybe it could be 160. Maybe we can get another 10 out of there. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we're on track to do almost exactly the same.
As last year?
Yeah,
So last year was 153.
yeah,
So if we did 160, do you think
yes.
that gives us
Well,
enough cushion?
We were 153 with 18% remaining at the end, 34, almost 35, right?
Yeah.
No, we were budgeted for 188, actuals were 153.
Gotcha.
Yep. So that's the 34.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, if we put it 165, 160,
Yeah.
okay. But probably we should confirm there's no giant hauling increases that.
Yeah, I don't think the contract went up that much that we
No.
re-signed, it went a little bit, but
Okay.
Yeah, new contract, right? Yeah.
I think it was pretty flat.
The other things that have come down a little bit is health insurance down a little, due to family versus single insurance policy. And yeah, those are the big, that's kind of, household hazardous waste, oh yeah. That's the only thing that I knew about.
Isn't there a new computer going up there?
It already did, didn't it? You got your new, yeah, he got the new computer, that was
Yeah,
in
we
this
did.
year's budget,
It's not working.
Okay.
yeah.
It's not working?
But it's new and it's there.
That's
Yeah,
internet,
It looks great though. Yeah,
that's the internet.
yeah,
That's-
I'm gonna get it done tomorrow.
Did they reach out to you?
Yes.
Okay.
They were,
Oh, it's not the
They
computer,
couldn't get
it's
through
just,
to me at
it's
the
the
transfer
bandwidth,
station.
I gotcha.
yeah, he was calling the transfer station.
Looks great.
And the line's dead, sorry.
Yeah,
We
56.
finally got
I
me on
gave
the
him the
set.
number.
I'm
Maybe I
sure
gave
you
him
did.
the number, I don't know.
Yep.
All right, so, yeah, this budget's pretty straightforward, and it's down 10%, which,
That's good.
wish we could do that with all of them.
Thank you, yeah.
Anything else for Brian for the transfer station? Brian, do you have anything for us?
No, nothing. I just saw Steve Brother's name on here too. He worked a couple days. Fantastic guy.
Great, so you're recommending that the board
Absolutely.
hire
You
him?
bring him and take a peek, but definitely.
That's on the agenda for a few minutes. Yeah.
We'll get to that in just a little bit here. We'll move on to the traffic safety committee.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Wait a minute, let me put this back.
We'll move on to the traffic safety committee with Joe Coco.
Hi, Joe.
I'm Joe.
Good
Thanks
to
for,
meet you.
thanks for doing this work.
Well, yeah, I really haven't done much, we're very, very new. But you're welcome.
Yeah.
Keith invited me because she felt there might be a,
On behalf of the
Miss-
board, I just in the messenger.
that's okay, I'm not
Yeah.
pointing fingers. Just that there might be some misunderstanding and thought I should come in and hear from you guys, I guess.
Yeah,
So, yeah, that's what I'm here for. Whatever I get, I'll pass on.
okay,
Anything I do say, from my point of view, me only. I didn't talk to the group about this.
okay.
They'll know at the next meeting. I'll put it on the agenda. We'll discuss whatever it is we need to discuss. But I think the notice that Keats put out was pretty,
Yeah,
good descriptive, pretty good. Yeah, I wish I could write like that. So I guess I'm just gonna, if you got concerns or something that I need to know that you feel I should take away, that's what I'm here for, I believe.
yeah. So, I'm Leanne.
I
And I sent you, you and the group an email, just to be
Yeah.
clear, because the way committees work is that the board empowers the committee to do some work that needs to be done.
Right.
And you're given a charter, you're given this is what you do. Sometimes we say, here's your time frame for doing it, if that's appropriate.
Yeah,
And,
we can get that.
well, kind of that June is your deadline for the DOT grant. So you've got until June to do.
Now, see, the DOT grant
Yeah, I'm
that
gonna,
you mentioned was the first time I heard about it.
okay, so I'm gonna go over you got a new, copy of the charter?
Yes, and that was the first time I seen that as well.
Okay, so, what we just wanna make sure that you and the committee understand is, again, what I outlined in the email that I sent, and
Yes.
Richard Doucette echoed it.
Yep.
Which is that really all you're working on is what is on this one-page piece of paper.
That's what I got from it.
Okay.
But all that is new to us,
Okay,
to everybody, I'm sure, because, well, I mean, the information we got was very different from
yeah.
that note.
So that note was, I think Keats emailed out to everybody on the
Yeah.
committee when you
As they should,
started.
yeah.
Everybody saw that note, I think
Yeah.
everybody's seen
Yeah.
the town.
So here's the reason why the committee was created. Traffic in all of New Hampshire is a nightmare. We know that, I think we all agree. Traffic in Tamworth can be a nightmare. We all know that too. If you look statistically at where trouble areas are, and I don't mean trouble like people speeding by your house, I mean accidents that have caused significant damage to property, significant physical harm, or even death, it's in that Route 16 corridor. And so, Alex Moot and John Gotchen have been working for quite a while trying to collect data and work with DOT on coming up with some sort of plan for that Route 16 corridor. Because 16 is a state road, really the only way you can get a project tackled is to be in DOT's 10-year plan. And the way you get a project in their 10-year plan is by creating an application. And then I sent you the link for that in the email that I sent out. John Gotchen is on the Lakes Region Planning Commission's Transportation Advisory Committee. The guy's a wealth of knowledge. The Transportation Advisory Committee is the group that takes the regional applications and scores them and vets them. So he knows like how to get this like what to look for in this kind of project. So what this committee's task is to look at very specifically the safety, you tackled Page Hill, that was one box checked. But also the safety coming down Page Hill where it crosses 113, right before the bridge. And then the Route 16 corridor, where Route 16 goes through Tamworth, so starting right around White Lake, going up to just past Shakora Lake.
Right.
And what the committee is tasked with is doing the research to see what safety issues have been problems there, and coming up with a plan using DOT's application that gets us into DOT's 10-year project work. So the application's super straightforward. It shows you what kind of stuff you have to find out, what kind of data you have to collect, what kind of narrative form it has to take.
Okay, well, that's a good start.
It's really
To
basic.
be honest.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's all you guys have authority to tackle right now.
Right.
And I understand that,
A member.
no,
Oh.
there are community members who have come to us and have come to people like Carl with things like, oh, safety in the village, pedestrian safety in the village. Different people have said, well, people speed on my road, why aren't you gonna tackle my road? That's not your purview right now. Like you don't have any authority to tackle those, because the authority you have is this. Like we had to have a discussion as a board, we had to come up with the wording, and we had to vote on it to get this committee going.
Right.
So, that being said, this is your task, and the deadline, I believe, is May or June. Again, John Gotchen is the guy to ask. The DOT site will tell you. If it's possible for you to do that application sooner, you would technically be done. You could then come to us, if there are committee members who still have interest in doing further work, you'd be welcome to come to us and say, we have a proposal for the next task for this committee, because we think there are other safety issues in town to tackle. And then you'd make your proposal, and we could say, oh, that sounds great, thanks for doing more work. And then we would give you another charter, we would extend your charter and give you authority to tackle the next issue.
So any task that comes our way comes here first.
Yes,
Then we get a new charter
Yep.
for that particular task,
right,
assuming it's approved or it goes
Right.
through the.
yeah, it has to come
corporation.
through us, yep.
Okay,
And-
that is a big misunderstanding, we, you
Yeah,
know, it's
sure.
very, the information we received was very, very different. Very opposite.
Yeah, not sure where that came from, because I saw the emails that came out from Keats, but whatever, we'll clarify it now, and then we appreciate, you've got a good committee of people who are willing to put the time in, which is fantastic.
Right, but they're off on information, false information, so
Yeah,
we need to
well,
wrangle that, which is fine.
and I think that so people have a couple of options, right? The people who volunteered for the committee.
Yeah.
I believe, Keats, correct me if I'm wrong, that when the traffic safety committee was advertised,
Yeah,
it was advertised with this, so if people came to it with a different idea, I'm not sure how that happened.
I don't know, sure either, because I didn't see that one, I just
Yeah.
jumped in.
So, so I guess folks on the committee right now have a couple of options. One of them is to say, oh, well, that clarifies it, let's just tuck in and get this done, because life and limb, that's important, we need to tackle that safety issue. Or they could say, oh, I really wanted to look at sidewalks, or whatever other thing people might be interested in. And then you could just say to them, that's okay, you can hold, you can step back from the committee work now, when this is done, you can bring a proposal
To
to the board
To the board,
later on and
Right.
go from there.
okay, okay.
Sorry it's been unclear somehow, because
Well, no, I
we're
mean,
very
I-
appreciative of the group coming together and being willing to put time in.
I think in some respects it may make things easier to start.
Yeah,
I mean, none of us really know much of anything, we
yep,
just jumped in and, that's where we're at.
right,
But I'm gonna say me, I can't say, I'm not just talking about for me.
sure,
we weren't, I'm not 100% sure where to start the information, what information is required.
Yep.
But it sounds like this DOT
Application.
application
yeah.
form will set us in the right direction.
I think so.
And I would really, I don't know when your next meeting is, but I would really have Alex Moot and John Gotchen meet with you first, because they've been working on this for a couple of years. The data they have is amazing. So, and you're gonna need data, because part of what you have to, part of what you have to prove to the state is, oh yeah, this is really a trouble area, and we're gonna give money toward fixing it. And the fixing is, you have to do kind of a, you identify a project, and you identify what the steps you think need to be taken to fix the project. And those steps are what DOT will work with you on. And that's what the application is. And then there's another step later, which is actually finding funding to come in and change the roads or whatever you have to do. That's a little bit ways down the road, don't worry about that yet. I think if you look at the application, it'll be a very, very straightforward guide.
Yep.
And definitely talk to John Gotchen and Alex Moot, because they know a lot about that corridor.
Do you have his email address?
It's been, I've CC'd, in those emails that I've,
Oh, he's in there?
they are
They're-
part of that email thread, so you should have them right in there. Yep, they both live in Chicago.
Okay, good.
Yep, yep,
Probably neighbors we don't know.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, we do? Oh,
Oh,
okay.
perfect, yeah,
Live right
that's
next door to
great.
one of them.
Yeah, so sorry for the confusion, I hope that's clear. If it's not, reach out and check in on any part of it.
Yeah,
I definitely will.
yeah.
I'll take a look at that form.
Okay,
Our meeting's 2 weeks, I believe, 2 Mondays. I don't know the exact date on the calendar on me. Okay, and I'll take a look at it, and
yeah,
we'll try to steer us
Yeah.
in the direction of this town traffic.
great,
That's all I can tell you.
okay. And again, John's the not only local expert, but regional expert on these DOT applications, because he's been working with them for years.
Okay.
So he'd be,
And they have the data to get us started, or
Yeah.
maybe even to get
Yep.
us.
he'll definitely be the one to say, take 5 steps forward and bang left.
Right.
You know, he'll know where to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Very familiar with where you're talking about,
Yeah,
I cross that intersection every day,
yeah,
sometimes 5 times a day.
yeah,
Even I've come close getting hit there,
yeah. Well, then you know, right.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much for coming in, I really appreciate it, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah,
And, all right, then we're good. Thank
okay,
you.
awesome,
Thank
thank
you
you.
very
No problem.
Nice to see you. Are you Richard?
Richard
I wasn't quite sure what your last name is.
Hurlbert,
Hurlbert. H,
URLBURT.
thank you.
Moving on to this transfer station candidate, Stephen Brothers.
Yep, that's just a motion to hire him as a
Per diem.
Do we have,
part-time unscheduled.
Oh,
Yeah.
part-time
State,
stay.
which is,
Unscheduled, we don't have per
Unscheduled.
diem anymore, the new policy.
do we have a
he
motion?
actually
Make a motion
might
that
be-
we hire Stephen Brothers as a part-time unscheduled employee at the transfer station at the standard rate,
Which is
20 an hour.
$20 an hour.
second,
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
There, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. 4 yes, 0 no. Moving on to old business, no old business, moving on to administrative report.
Can I have the agenda? Okay, bank balance is $3,590,500. I have something I need to talk with you about, which Elaine kindly brought to my attention. And this is, I'm not sure it really fits under administrative report, so tell me if we need to just put this on the agenda for next week. But it is basically to talk about, in our new transition to the new personnel policy. The way it worked is everybody received their vacation time up to the date of the effective date of the policy. Then they started to, accrue it. And so there are several people who have a lot of vacation time. And rather than get to the last 2 weeks of the year and have a panic about what to do with that, there's a recommendation about either a buyout or, it can be up for discussion. But it's not really an administrative report item. It might be a real full-blown agenda item because people may want to weigh in. I can put it on next week's agenda. It just came up at the end of the day today.
I think it's worth some discussion.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Put it-
so what I'll do is
I mean,
I
we'll,
think I sent you the spreadsheet, but I can't remember. So I will send this out, you can study it, and then we can discuss it next week.
That'd be great.
Okay,
I think you sent it because I've read it.
you did see
You
it,
did,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You
so,
sent the spreadsheet.
But we just can't
We-
have a
we can't
discussion
really
because it's
discuss
not on
it.
the agenda yet.
Right.
so that's fun.
Yeah.
And other than that, everything just continues to roll on. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Moving on to the signature file. I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for October 3rd, 2024, as well as the non-public minutes for October 3rd, 2024, under RSA 91-A:3, 2A, Session 1, and RSA 91-A, 91-A:3, 2A, Session 2.
Second.
Roll call vote.
There, yes?
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. 4 yes, 0 no. I make a motion to approve the payroll in the amount of $35,354.28.
Second.
Roll call vote.
There, yes?
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. 4 yes, 0 no. The cash used to date is $8,386,251.33. And we will move on to the select.
No accounts payable?
No,
We'll start off with the select board update.
I've got nothing.
I had a few emails back and forth about the transfer station bathroom. Met Brian on Sunday as I normally do to catch up on things around there. I talked to a few people from around town expressing some questions, comments about the upcoming budgeting season.
Oh, good.
But overall, it's been a really fast week.
Yeah,
Just
I know.
yesterday we were here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comes around quick.
Yeah.
Brian had LRPC exec board yesterday, and the biggest interesting thing for Tamworth is that they are really starting to do master plan servicing again, which they kind of dipped away from a little bit. And since the planning board is looking into, in the coming year, working on revising the master plan, that's great news that we can have support through LRPC if we need it. Dave Jeffers from LRPC was hugely instrumental in the 2008 work that got done.
Hillary dug up the 1980 master plan, if anybody wants to see it.
Oh, wow.
No update for me. See you guys again next week, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, you'll be here next week?
Yes.
Okay.
I got a couple more before I'm done. Moving on to public input. Is there any public input?
I want to know why Depot Road isn't getting paved this year. It was passed, the budget for the highway department got passed, and in the minutes, because I didn't read them, but I was there at the budget, or that March meeting where everything was voted on. And Richard specifically said the increase in his budget was to cover the cost of paving Page Hill, which got done first because of when we had them heavy rains.
Right.
It undermined the road where the culverts are, so I know that much, that's why it got paved.
Yep.
But time runs out November 15th, because all the paving plants have to, that's their usual shutdown day.
Yep.
Is it's too cold to pave and what have you. So my question is, the budget was passed for the highway department to pave Depot Road. It's not getting done.
Richard just reported on that, getting on the list last time.
Getting Depot Road on
Yeah,
this?
I
Well,
thought,
the Depot Road Bridge,
I thought he said
I
last
was talking
report that
about,
I remember, yeah, I agree with you on that, I thought I was getting paid, and I keep driving
I-
across going, oh, it's still not paved.
Yeah,
I don't-
and Page Hill and Depot Road, I have no data to prove it because I don't sit there counting cars. But I live on Depot Road
Yeah.
and I travel 113 around, and there's more people that cut up across Page Hill and down over instead of going, because the road is a lot better.
Yeah.
And you have so much traffic on Depot Road because it cuts through,
Yep.
you know, to the school, to
Yeah,
to
Richard,
town
everywhere,
from
yeah.
16.
yeah,
It's the shortest way pretty much to get here.
yeah. Richard agrees it's one of the most, between Page Hill and Depot Road, they're the two most traveled
Town road.
in town.
I don't have an answer exactly for that, but I can get you an answer from Richard pretty easily. I haven't talked to him in a couple weeks.
I see Richard a lot, but I don't
Yeah.
like to talk business
Yeah, yeah, fair
after
enough.
hours.
I
Do,
understand.
do
So
you,
I throw a dig in at him once in a while, but that's about it.
do you wanna leave contact, or do you have contact information?
Yeah, I can.
Do you wanna give me your email address?
Pardon?
Do you have an email address? I can.
Yeah, but
I can.
I see him every Monday night
Oh.
at trivia. If he needs to tell me something, or if not, then you guys can.
Yeah, I
It's
can.
my snafu86 at Yahoo or at gmail.com.
I'm sorry, it's what?
My snap.
My snafu,
My-
MYS
And
NAFU 86 at gmail.com.
I haven't.
The whole world is gonna know his email.
That's a great email address.
It is a good one.
I haven't talked to him in a couple weeks, so when I reach out to him sometime in the next couple days, I'll let you know.
Right, so I'm just
I
curious
don't.
where
I
the
don't
money
actually.
is.
well, I
Because
would
it's been
say-
passed, it was passed
Yeah.
for his budget.
I would assume it hasn't been spent yet because that would be in the road reconstruction
Yeah.
portion of his budget. So, and I don't think he's done any other big projects, so I don't think that it probably hasn't been spent yet. I don't know. I know like the bridge up on Mountain Road that he's doing is happening this next week. South Tamworth Mountain, off 25.
Mountain Road, it's a wooden bridge, 10,000 pound, or 10,000 ton or something like that. 20,000 pound, I think.
Yeah, so that's getting replaced, and that was supposed to happen like in August. Not that this has anything to do with Depot Road, but that's 2-3 months behind, a couple of months behind now. So I don't
may
travel.
plan on
I don't.
encumbering it.
Yeah, he may plan on encumbering it if it couldn't have got done, but it may still get done. Maybe it's on the schedule for the next week or two. Richard also is not one to pave late in the year, like even
Right.
come November, because he doesn't believe in it.
Right, I understand that. That's why,
So-
I understand it's
I
late
would
in
think
the
if
year.
it's gonna happen like just soon. But
I
I'll
don't-
talk to him sometime in the next, because I actually kind of wondered myself. I don't travel Depot Road
Yeah.
very often, just where I live in town. I wish they didn't pave Page Hill because
Yeah,
it slows
yeah.
people down a
Made it
little
too
bit.
fast, yeah.
To be honest, but that wasn't as bad a shape as Depot Road. Anyway, so
We'll try to get you an answer.
yeah,
Well, I
No,
just
I'll
don't,
reach-
I just wanna make sure that if the money was approved,
Well,
so it shouldn't be
well, what's she?
spent on something else, or
No,
it'll, so
I
if
would-
it's gotta be done next year,
it'll,
then
that money will
then
be.
there shouldn't be an increase in the road
It would be
construction
encumbered.
budget for,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. if it's under
That.
contract.
If it's under contract.
Yeah.
It'd be encumbered. If not, the money would go into the unassigned fund balance, and then we'd use that to offset. Say he raised the money again for paving next year, we'd take it back out of the unassigned fund balance to offset taxes. So
Okay,
Yeah.
All right.
Um,
Yeah,
but
'cause
anyway,
I've
I'll
lived
See
there
what he
for,
plans.
Yeah.
I've lived there for 13 years now, and when I first bought that house, that road was in immaculate shape. It had, actually, I think it had just been paved a couple of years prior to me buying that house on Depot Road. so.
Yeah,
yeah.
All right, I
Thank
just
you.
wanted to, because it was approved,
yep,
Yeah,
yeah,
and I mean, it's not Richard's crew that's doing the paving,
right.
No.
so I just wanted to know why it didn't get done this year.
Yeah,
All right.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Have a good
guys.
night.
have a good
You
night.
too.
You're
See
welcome
ya.
to come into every
See you
meeting
next
except
time.
Road if you want.
Well, I'll go to notify you first, so I'm like the first person that has something to say. All right, thanks, have a good night.
Yeah.
Take care.
Too.
Any other public input?
Yeah, Pete did mention Depot Road on, July 11th.
Thank you.
Thanks, I was looking for it.
On July 11th?
Yes. And also, I would like to report that the northern lights right now are very bright outside.
Yeah,
That's why
That's what my
Carl's
phone-
alarm's
my
been
phone's
busting
been
up.
going.
yeah, me too.
Are you getting alerts too? Everybody's
Yeah.
getting alerts.
I know, I'm like.
Well, let's
go
round this
outside.
up so we can go
Wrap it up,
outside.
wrap it up.
Are you gonna do that tomorrow?
Since we don't talk, it's okay.
I can
Any
go
other public
till 11
input?
o'clock.
Hearing none. I'm gonna move on to
Non-public.
non-public under RSA 91-8:3 2A. This would be session 2.
Yeah.
And RSA 91-8:3 2D session 3 at 7:42 p.m.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Very yes.
Schaefer, yes.
I just, yes.
Roberts yes, 4 yes, 0 no. We are now non-public at 8:42 p.m.
Do we decide what we just?
No.
Oh,
No. You just authorized her to be the signer.
great.
Yep. Because there's about 85 places to initialize, so you're really glad you don't have to sign it.
Well, I saw all those
That's
tabs.
the smallest signature file.
I know,
I've
that's
ever done.
weird.
Yeah.
Well, if you start, I will say that if we meet every week, it does
Yeah.
generally.
Trim down, yeah, it's true.
7:52.
I make a motion to come out of non-public at 7:52 p.m.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Very yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. 4 yes, 0 no. Are minutes sealed?
No.
No, minutes are not sealed. We are now in non-public. Motion to adjourn.
Hey Ed, here's a question for
What
you.
time is it?
7:52.
7:50 again, please.
When other boards do roll call vote, do they do it the way we do, where we say our own name and our vote, or does the chair call their
They say,
name?
The only ones that do that is when they go into non-public, and that would be the commissioners. They usually call the person's name.
The chair does?
Either the chair does or they do.
Yeah.
So
Because at LRPC we went into
most people don't do roll call vote.
anymore, yeah.
But you have to when you're going into.
What do you mean?
Yes, when going in non-public. you
But
do.
like if you're voting
Normally it's
for.
like, so all in favor of da-da-da-da, say aye. Aye. All.
There's a reason that Ed said
I
he
like
liked it.
roll call vote, personally.
I like roll call vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's easy.
liked it.
What is
It's
it
clear.
about? Just
I
that
commit
it's
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, and he has it on record who voted.
No, I don't like when they go, I
Where's the
don't
best
like when
place
boards
to go look
make
at-
it a major
What, till I
decision,
hate it,
it's like 3-0. Well, who voted
Carl's
no?
voted.
Who voted yes? I wanna see.
I think it's clean to do roll call vote.
Yeah.
Simple, quick.